Hey everyone, my name's Adiran. I'm the CTO lead for Microsoft Startups for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. With me will present Amit and from my team and Marina. And today we're going to talk about something very exciting, the top innovations from Microsoft as was announced in Microsoft Ignite just last month. I know we've seen a ton of announcements coming out of this event and obviously everything that Microsoft and our partners have been doing, but we really wanted to focus some of those innovations on what's interesting to you as startups. So instead of talking about the entire conference, we're going to talk about 5 of the top interesting announcements that are coming out of Ignite. So let's kick off. We are at the age of AI. This has been something that tremendously happened in the past year. Since ChatGPT, which is already a year old, was announced, we've seen a ton of innovation that has been changing and pivoting a lot of startups in that domain. Now, the biggest question that we're asking, specifically from startups that are currently not working on AI, is this relevant to me? I mean, cool, those are a lot of cool APIs. We can use ChatGPT to summarize some things. We're doing some marketing stuff, but is it really changing what I'm doing as a startup? And I think what we've seen throughout this year, and specifically at Ignite, is that the answer is yes. There is a fundamental change, and we are moving from a mobile cloud world into an AI-first world. And that is a big change for every startup, specifically startups that are not currently working with AI or just exploring this for some of those small use cases. I want to maybe deep dive into the reason why this is such a major change, even if you're not working with AI, or even if your business or your startup is not currently evolved around AI. So let's look at this chart, and maybe it will give us a sense of why AI is really pivotal as a change for the industry. So everything we've seen up until now from the mobile and cloud world was a lot of new features and functionalities are actually complicating the app that we're offering. So if we're starting off with something super basic as a startup and we're trying to convey our IP in a way that makes sense to our users, that starts off here. It's very noob friendly. It's very easy for a lot of people to understand what to do. And when you're trying to complicate or add more functionality or add more complexity into the app, most of that complexity is actually harming how a user can really adopt what you're doing. So what we're actually seeing is as your startup grows and as your app grows, the level of complexity grows as well, and the chances for users to actually use your features, even your top innovations, is dropping rapidly. And this is a fundamental change. If we're seeing something as a good example, this is the kind of short and stupid version. But if you're adding complexity, now it's becoming much more hard to use. And I think this is the pivotal moment that AI can fundamentally change, because we do want to add more functionality. We want to improve what we do as a startup, but we don't want all of that complication and all of that cognitive load to come on our users. I think this quote by Douglas Engelbart actually reflects what we're trying to say best. So the complexity/urgency factor has transcended what humans can cope with. I'm suddenly flushed that if you could do something to improve human capability to cope with that, you'd really contribute to something basic. And this is where the computer world, since we've seen social and mobile and cloud and all of those innovations come into the world, a lot of what we offer in the app experience is actually landing on the startups. And that became a massive problem for the entire industry. For the first time, and we've seen this throughout Ignite, but I think over the past year, and again, since ChatGPT really came into the world, is that a co-pilot is really a way for us to resolve some of that complexity. So what is a co-pilot? A co-pilot is an application using modern AI to assist you with complex cognitive tasks. That means that we can actually take some of the innovations that ChatGPT and a lot of the foundation models and large language models brought into the world to help with something bigger. It's not about AI. It's really about taking the complexity/urgency factor that we've seen and trying to mitigate it to something that is bearable to a lot of the users. So let's look at some of the things that ChatGPT and large language models brought into the world and why that really helps in that solving that fundamental issue. One is natural language. We all know that those APIs, those models really understand natural language. That means that using them, even for very complicated scenarios, has become very easy. You just need to think it, say it, and then you can really convey a lot of complicated ideas and scenarios in plain English. You don't need to learn about complicated UX. You don't need to work with a lot of different screens. You don't even need to understand the whole basic of UX for your application. You just need to think it, say it, and then the application can really understand what you're trying to do. The second piece that was really coming apart from those large language models is the reasoning engine. And this is a big and key part. So LLMs don't just understand and can really convert what you're trying to say in natural language, but they can really reason it as well. So we can take some of the things that humans are saying and reason it to something the application can understand. And when you have that intermediary, that co-pilot in the middle of it, then this is where you can introduce new, very complicated scenarios in a very simplified manner and really taking down that complexity/urgency factor into something that is much more bearable to a lot of the users. Now, this is just some of the things that happened in the past year, and you can see a lot of different customers, from startups like Shopify to some really large customers like Mayo Clinic. And you can see a lot of the places that Copilot have been introduced to mitigate that complexity. Now, what's interesting in this slide is a lot of those customers are actually not AI customers. Those are different, coming from different industries, from retail, from healthcare, from financial services, but they're taking that new age of AI and that Copilot sense to do something fundamentally different within their application. And I think this is a call to action for a lot of the startups that are listening right now. Even if you're not coming from the AI world, AI is a reason for you to try and pivot some of the way that you're introducing new IP and new functionalities to your users. So this is a new mindset, and it is not really relevant to if you're coming from an AI world or not coming from an AI world. This is something that implicates everyone. Now, if we're looking at some of the stats that people that have been using Copilot, I think those are tremendous. And I really urge you to try and explore this a little bit further. So 77% of the users are actually saying that they cannot go back. So Copilot is not just a big sense of changing the applications. Users are choosing this to work with a lot of applications, and they're not willing to come back. You can see some of the stats here around productivity, around how that save time, catching up on a lot of information like meetings. So when you're introducing a Copilot, we're seeing tremendous, huge numbers of adoption. And I would say personally, those are numbers that I've never seen throughout the industry. So many people are not just adopting those features, they can go back. If you really want to learn a little bit about this, if you're currently trying to understand what to do with it, I really urge you to take a second and learn from that experience. aka.ms/WTI is a great place for you to understand what that could really do into application from adoption perspective, from complexity perspective, and from really trying to interact with the users in different ways. So again, it's a really good place for you to understand what AI could already do, already done to some of the places in the industry. So if you want to build something from your own, that's actually quite easy. This is the custom recipe for Startup Copilot. And a lot of those things we're going to deep dive in this session. I will present some of them, and you will see Marina and Amit just after me really talk about building that recipe. The first part is the foundational models. I will talk a little bit about them and some of the announcements that we've seen across Ignite. Really take those foundational models available through Microsoft and through our programs and Founders Hub for you as a startup. And I think those are the best ones in the market you can currently consume from Microsoft. The second piece is having your own graph data. So we don't just want a foundational model just running out there. It needs to be grounded with what you're trying to do. So remember, it's not just about natural language, it's about reasoning as well. So doing the right amount of reasoning requires a lot of data and context that you need to deliver to that foundational models for it to be very accurate to what you're trying to do. And the third part is actually the cloud part of it from the Azure perspective, and it's really about building it into your user interface. So trying to find a way to infuse that is a way for startups and to really consume some of that users' interactions in a different manner. And that could live side by side with your traditional UX, just saying this is too complicated for adding 12 screens into doing something. Maybe just working with natural language and trying to reason from those complicated scenarios could be easy. So thinking about a Copilot is not just an all or nothing. It's not black and white. You can really understand what would be the right time to introduce a Copilot, and your users can maybe opt in between traditional and Copilot experience for what they want and what they like. But before that, it's really interesting to talk also about where those investments can live. So beyond just building your own Copilot, we're actually announcing a lot of things in Ignite that allow you to tap into the larger Copilot ecosystem. So think about it as a one stone, two birds kind of application. You can build your own Copilot in your application, but also publish that Copilot to use with other Copilots. That could be through Windows Copilot, Bing Copilots, and even the extended interface of OpenAI, including some of ChatGPT's recent announcements. So you can think about this as both building your own, but also publishing it to something that would be like an app store for Copilots. That could be another delivery mechanism for all of your offerings that could live outside of your application. And this is the same Copilot. This is a really interesting investment to tap into the 100 million plus users of ChatGPT, including a vast ecosystem of Bing and Windows, and also do this within your startup as well. So let's talk a little bit about what happened at Ignite. And again, we had more than 100 announcements there, so we don't want to delve into all of them, but only the things that are relevant to you as startups. And I think the biggest thing is really to understand the Copilot stack. Let's take a second to really deep dive around it. So when we're talking about the Copilot stack, we have the larger layer, which is the Copilot Studio and where the Copilot actually lives. A lot of our Copilots, your Copilots, Microsoft, and some of our partners as well. And this is more of the UX sort of publication of it. This is how the users will interact with your own Copilot. This is the layer where it lives. The second layer, and this will be something that Marina will actually really deep dive around, is the AI orchestration. We don't just want to take the prompt and share it immediately with the foundational models. We want to have a lot of work, both to build some of that grounding for your context and maybe doing some changes to the prompt itself to adding additional context. So we will make sure that that meets the reasoning engine as well and not just the natural language. There's a lot of work that could happen here around responsible AI as well, and we'll talk a little bit about this. And then the last layer is actually the foundational models. So it's what you can use when you're trying to build your own Copilot. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, okay, that's probably OpenAI, and that's a big part of it, but that's not the only part of it. So we're going to see some of the areas within the foundational model and data offerings that we offer as part of Azure and some of the announcements coming from Ignite to try and enjoy from all of the worlds, both some proprietary, really, really good models like GPT-4 Turbo, but also some of the open source investments that we're seeing across the world. Okay, so the first part is talking a little bit about the AI infrastructure and what you can do there. And we have a few offerings that you can do when you're trying to build your own foundational model or use an existing one. And I want you to maybe understand what is the options that are available to you if you're trying to use some of those foundational models. The first one is ready-made. So this is the easiest one. You just need to infuse your data and do some prompt engineering, and you'll see some of the innovations coming at Azure AI Studio that is directly added to what you're trying to do in that ready-made option. The second option is if you're trying to do full renovation, so really trying to do some fine-tuning into the model itself, not just adding data context and in prompt engineering, but maybe trying to change the model itself. And then the last piece is actually custom build. So if you're an AI startup and you're trying to build your own, Azure is also the best way to do that as well. And again, we're very experienced because GPT-3, 4, and 4 Turbo are great examples of things that were built through Azure's supercomputer. So let's start with talking a little bit about training your own. And I think a key partnership here would definitely be Nvidia. So we're going to give a few seconds to talk about that as well. So Azure is the world's computer. We have 60 plus regions and 300 data centers worldwide. There's a lot of computer power here. And we also have a lot of great partnerships. As I mentioned, Nvidia is key one that we actually want to highlight. So at Ignite, we actually share that this will be coming soon, the NDH200 V5. That supports even larger models and faster interfaces from Nvidia. And I think if you are interested in this, there's a great link for you to read a little bit more about that. Another interesting thing, and this is something that I've seen a lot of startups ask since we launched it as well, so I want to make sure that you are aware of it, is called Azure Maya. Azure Maya is the Microsoft Cloud AI accelerator optimized specifically for large language models training. So if you are trying to build your own, this could be an interesting hardware for you to explore, and there's a great link for it here. You can see that interface, that hardware, just in this slide. So every AI workload is actually benefits from that silicon optimization. And you can see this again coming from the Microsoft innovation as well as our partners in Nvidia. And if you are trying to build something for Azure AI, this is definitely the best platform that you can choose today. Now, this is not just me, Adir saying. There's a lot of places that we also went through some external exploration as well. So this is the 500 top supercomputers that you can see here on the list. Actually, Azure is the only public cloud in the top 5, and this is a really interesting milestone for Microsoft. We're number 3, and I think if you are exploring to do some supercomputer work within a public cloud, this is a great place to start. Also, if you're trying to do something within training or some of the other capabilities, there's an MLPref analytics that is already available. You can look for it here as part of the training. And again, we are the fastest from every cloud offering that is out there in the market. So if you are trying to build your own, I think Microsoft within the partners and within some of the innovations that we have announced at Ignite is probably the best for you to start exploring in the public cloud domain. Let's move to some of the foundational models. And again, this is more talking about not just building your own, but trying to use that ready-made or some of the renovations that we're trying to do within fine-tuning. So it is using an existing foundational model, but maybe trying to do something with it. So if we're looking at the list of foundational models, obviously this is a key part of it. Microsoft definitely loves OpenAI. You can explore some of the most recent innovations here, aka.ms/OpenAI. I did try to maybe condense it a bit because I know a lot of you already heard it. So obviously GPT-4 Turbo is going at preview, DALL-E 3 is going at preview, and also GPT-4 Turbo with Vision, which is kind of a combined model that for you to do a lot of different applications with. And if we are trying to learn a little bit about what is available within GPT-4 Turbo, those are some of the great innovations that are coming into Azure. So you can enable multi-model Gen AI with video, image, and text together. You can think about some of those new scenarios if you're integrating this with Azure AI Vision and obviously RAG patterns. You will see some of those examples as we go through the Model Studio and in Marina's session. But a really interesting part here is to learn about why Azure also works with the entire ecosystem. And, I'm coming from an open source background, so this is a very slide that I personally like, is that Microsoft really likes open source, and there's a lot of offerings that we're actually offering through that as well. I think the biggest one is definitely the Llama 2 as a service. You can see this as at the aka.ms models as a service. This is a really interesting announcement. It's coming from Ignite, which is available through the model catalog. We'll explore a bit about the model catalog in later slides, but an interesting new sets of models that are available here is also Mistral, JS, Stable Diffusion, and a lot of open source models as well. So again, trying to combine all of it together, this is a really good place for you to build your own foundational models with all of the innovations that we've seen from Azure Maya, Cobalt, Azure Boost, and Nvidia, and also to use the best top foundational models in the world, whether coming from OpenAI or coming from the open source. This is the most largest ecosystem of models that are currently available in the public cloud. Now, to make sure that those models really work with the right context, you also need to add your own data into it. And this is another part of the infrastructure. Now here I want to maybe take a minute to talk a little bit about how startups can explore what is right for their use case. So let's look at that slide. So if we're trying to look at a hierarchy of foundational model customization, about 90% of those startup use cases, specifically the initial ones, could be solved by adding your own data, your own context into those foundational models and doing some prompt engineering. And again, we're talking about hardcore engineering. It's not just about English writing it in English and doing some of those parsing examples that you may think when you hear prompt engineering. We will see real-world engineering in the Azure AI Studio in a second. Doing the most at both of those, adding a lot of data and context and doing a lot of engineering work could really take about 90% of those use cases, and it could be a great initial jumpstart to you, even if you don't want to do a lot of hardcore renovation and you're trying to build your own. But again, as we mentioned, if you are trying to do fine-tuning and training, this is also available throughout Azure with a lot of the things that we've just seen. And I want to just close up in here before deep diving into the Azure AI Studio and moving the floor to Marina, is that Azure AI running on your data. So if you're seeing the AI app and the Copilot, the first thing that you actually need to do is to introduce your own context. And this is, I would say, before going into the Azure AI Studio and prompt engineering and a lot of the things that you will see in a second, is about making sure that the data is there and is easily retrievable by some of those Copilots. You can see that we're supporting now in a lot of different ways to get the data into the foundational model, into that context, but it is running on your data. That could be some of the data sources like search, files, databases, and a lot of third-party data sources as well that you can tap into them. Now with that, I want to move the floor into talking about the AI orchestration and what to do once you chose on the right foundational models and you added the data as a context to it, what you can do as part of the engineering. So I want to welcome Marina into the stage to talk a little bit about AI orchestration and what you can do with the recent AI announcements. Marina, over to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marina, and thank you, Adir. I want to talk today about the next level in the Copilot stack. It's AI orchestration layer. And Adir already mentioned many exciting announcements around AI infrastructure, about foundation models. And now my question from a developer point of view, how to select the right model based on your use case, how to deal with the complexities of prompt flow, or how to integrate vector search and vector engine or retrieval augmented generation pattern, how to build the integration with Azure OpenAI service, and more than that, how to bring all these parts together and develop real AI application, and then to run and monitor it in production environment. To answer all those questions, Microsoft came up and announced new Azure AI Studio, which is now in a public preview. Actually, Azure AI Studio is one-stop shop and unified development environment to explore, build, test, deploy AI solutions, applications, and your custom copilots, and in order to serve your customer needs. So Microsoft combined state-of-the-art AI tools together under one single AI to simplify generative AI application development process. The slide shows here the Azure AI Studio, and Azure AI Studio has several capabilities, and I would say that this platform is mainly for AI developers, data scientists, and anyone who wants to develop AI application. So developers can start with customizing and grounding the foundation model with their own data and choosing where to get this data from. For example, from a Microsoft Fabric One Lake. They can choose a Azure AI Search for vector embeddings or as LLM, or pick other models from a large model catalog, design and manage complex flows, test models' responses, and based on that to improve your prompts. In all this to be able to get an idea, build an MVP, and get to the market fast. And as we already know, one picture, or in our case, demo or video, is worth thousands of words. So let's see short demo how it looks like.
To bring AI solutions to market faster and more efficiently, developers need better tools. Azure AI Studio is a comprehensive AI development platform designed to be the place for you to build and scale responsible generative AI solutions. AI Studio has a robust catalog of pre-built and customizable frontier and open source models, including those from Azure OpenAI Service, Hugging Face, Nvidia, and Meta, including the popular Llama 2 LLM, which is now available as a service, with pay-as-you-go inference APIs and hosted fine-tuning. Whether you're working with structured, unstructured, or real-time data, you can smoothly apply it to your models, along with sophisticated hybrid search to fuel high-performing app experiences. AI developers can create data-enriched and detailed prompts to get the best results from the generative model using prompt flow, and then use tooling to compare and automatically evaluate model outputs. AI Studio provides seamless integration with VS Code, GitHub Codespaces, Semantic Kernel, and LangChain. Azure AI Studio is equipped with built-in content safety, responsible AI tools, and enterprise-grade security, privacy, and compliance measures. No matter what your generative AI solution may be, you can create it here. Build with Azure AI Studio.
Next, I want to explore the data aspect. Data is one of three main components and application AI stack. I guess you will agree with me that every intelligent application starts with data, and your AI is only good as your data. The integration of your data and AI services in one solution can be a unique competitive advantage. So if you don't feed good data into the large language model, you are going to get bad results. In other words, data is the fuel that powers AI. Just to remind you, in Azure, you have plenty of choices how to manage and run your data with new innovation across Azure database portfolio with AI that can help you with AI innovation in existing and new cloud native applications. So with data in mind, let's have a look at two following areas in AI Studio: data integration and the search capabilities. Talking about data integration, Azure AI Studio has abilities to make it much easier for you to connect to data from different data sources, for example, like Microsoft Fabric OneLake, and seamlessly ground models with your own unique data. And the next area, hybrid and semantic search. Azure AI Studio allows implement sophisticated hybrid search and semantic search to support retrieval augmented generation pattern, which is very recommended when developing AI applications. So the data can come in different formats: structured, unstructured. It can be real-time data, which is coming from several data sources like Azure Blob Storage, Azure Data Lake, Fabric OneLake. It can be files from your local files and folders. And for all these data sources, we have connector built in Azure AI Studio. And in addition, as you can see on this slide, you can connect to other cloud providers and on-premises data sources. And again, you need to feed the models with the data in order to get the best possible output or answer for large language models. We discussed how data is the most crucial element when creating AI applications. Another essential component of AI app stack is search and retrieval systems, especially when you're implementing retrieval augmented generation pattern in developing your AI application and your custom copilots. Azure AI Search, which is search engine, is used to be called Azure Cognitive Search, supports now vectors. So first, what are vectors and why they're important? They're actually numerical representations of data, and it's very easy for a system to compare vectors so you can generate and get newness or relevance from it. Vector search is really good in understand the user intent. For example, relationships between words. For example, you can understand the relationship between tent and camping, waterproof and jackets. In simple words, vector search enables faster and more effective data retrieval. Having good vector support is important, is getting a good answer from LLM. Why it's so exciting? It doesn't just vector search support. It combines vectors with semantic search and traditional keyword search. So we call it hybrid search. And it significantly improves the result that you are likely to get from search index. Another new feature in Azure AI Search is semantic ranker that uses advanced language models to improve the relevance and quality of search results. Semantic ranker is supported by Bing technologies that uses huge data asset and extensive machine learning expertise to rank document. It can understand the intent and meaning behind the user query to find the most relevant matches. So the result, high quality search result with higher relevance. Another area in Azure AI Studio is development lifecycle tools. As you have learned, developing AI apps and copilots involves new challenges, complexities, and requires new tools, practices to achieve outcomes and good outcomes. So Microsoft integrated the best tools for developers in one place. So we will discuss tools like model catalog, prompt flow, and new concept, LLM ops, which should be the part of the development process and DevOps processes. Let's take a brief look at the model catalog that was already announced by Microsoft before Ignite, but we are expanding and adding more options and new models to give developers the most complete range of cutting-edge and open-source generative AI models. As a developer, you can find, test, fine-tune, deploy foundation models for well-known providers and vendors like Hugging Face, Meta, Nvidia, OpenAI, and it makes easier to choose the best foundation model based on your requirements and based on your use case. So model catalog has grown recently to include models like Code Llama 2, Stable Diffusion, Falcon, and new models from Hugging Face, and more are coming. The next technology I want to explore and the next exciting announcement is model as a service. So there are many customers, they don't want to deal with the infrastructure. They just want to call API endpoint and integrate it in the application. So that is where model as a service comes into play. This behavior basically very, very similar to a behavior of other Azure OpenAI services and AI services in our portfolio. So we call the endpoint and it does what it asks. So Microsoft has announced partnership with Meta around the Llama 2 models, also with Mistral, Jace, and Cohere. And we have their models now that we are bringing up as part of the model as a service platform. This will simplify things for customers who don't want to worry about infrastructure, just to use the model without having to consider how to allocate and handle underlying GPU resources that are usually costly and in very high demand. And now I'm more than happy to announce a new partnership with Desi. Desi is a highly potential Israeli startup, and we will see their models in our model catalog as soon. So Desi will present their technology later today.
Hi everyone, I'm Jonathan Elial, COO and co-founder at Desi. Desi is a deep learning development platform powered by neural architecture search technology. We help AI teams and practitioners to build, optimize, and develop outstanding models to production in terms of both accuracy and efficiency. We support generative AI, NLP, and computer vision use cases on any hardware. Working with our platform consists of 3 steps. First step, you either choose a pre-optimized foundation model, or you build a custom neural net for your needs. Then you train or fine-tune the model on your data. And lastly, you optimize this model for your hardware and serve it efficiently. At the end of the day, Desi will help you to achieve a superior deep learning-based product, lower your time to production, and substantially cut your inference costs. One example of our optimized foundational model is Desi LM 7 billion. This is the world's fastest and most efficient text generation model in its class. It's compared to models such as Llama 2, Mistral, Falcon, and MPT. Desi LM 7B provides 4.4 higher throughput than Mistral 7B with on-par accuracy. This translates into huge cost saving, more than 70%. You can explore this model and more future models in the Azure AI model catalog. Thank you, and back to you, Marina.
So now we have amazing tools like prompt flow, like model as a service, but I think it's not enough to have the bunch of models and APIs. Let's talk for a moment about GPT-4 model, which is amazing model. It had the best measures of quality. Its inference and performance is terrific. But you know what? What if it's not perfect for your task? So now Microsoft is offering a model benchmarking system within AI Studio. So you can go to Model Catalog and find a comparison view for benchmarking metrics of multiple foundation models, allowing users to self-educate or to make educated decisions about the suitability of models and datasets for their specific use case. So developers can select the best model for their business requirement, considering factors and parameters like capabilities, cost, latency, and compatibility. Let me go back to the question I asked at the beginning of my presentation. How to combine all these technologies and features we have talked about so far and put them together in one complex flow. As LLM-based AI applications keep expanding, orchestration mechanisms and grounding are crucial. So the answer for all those requirements is prompt flow. Prompt flow is an orchestration tool to handle prompt orchestration and LLM ops. Prompt flow offers a complete solution that makes the process of prototyping, experimenting, iterating, and deploying your AI application easier. What can you do with prompt flow? First of all, you can create executable flows that link LLMs, prompts, Python code, and other tools through a visualized graph. The second, debug, share, iterate your flows with historical tracking. And then create prompt variants and evaluate their performance user testing. This last one, integrate prompt flows into your CI/CD workflows and pipelines, including run batch jobs. And finally, we support code-first approach, and you can develop your flow with Visual Studio Code. The final component I want to explore today is responsible and safe AI, and present you with tools and capabilities you have in Azure AI Studio to follow responsible AI principles. This way, your end user can have confidence in your AI solutions. You have tools like Content Safety Studio, jailbreak detection, and more. But before we dive into those tools, let me briefly explain what responsible AI innovation means for Microsoft. Microsoft has been on a journey from initial concepts and ideas into what responsible AI principles and goals mean for us to where we are now today, where we are implementing responsible AI at scale across the company. It means Microsoft uses the same tools inside the company and integrate them into tools for the customers and end users. You can see on this slide, Office of Responsible AI has been established as cross-company governance and coordination team working in three main areas. The first one, research and thought leadership around its responsible AI. The second, policies and governance. And the last one, engineering. And all this to create solid foundation for responsible AI principles. But we have also been putting a lot of effort into translating these principles into actions, standards, and concrete practices and tools. And we can see the result of this work in Azure AI Studio, which helps developers integrate responsible AI principles into the development process and evaluate AI application for quality and safety. And I'd like to highlight that Azure AI built on trust and remind you some of our practices like your data is your data. Your data is not used for train our models or any other models, and your data is protected by the most comprehensive enterprise compliance and security controls. In terms of responsible AI, Azure AI Studio now supports Azure AI Content Safety, which is extra layer of protection that helps organizations detect and mitigate user-generated or AI-generated harmful content and create better online experiences for your end users. Think about AI content safety as a smart content filtering service as part of application to meet regulations and keep desired environment for end users. We have 2 new features in Content Safety Studio. The first one, jailbreak risk detection, which scans text for the risk of jailbreak attack on a large language model. And the second one, protected material text detection, which scans AI-generated text for known text content, like song lyrics, article, recipes, and etc. So to summarize, customer can use Azure AI Content Safety as built-in safety system within Azure AI Studio for open models as part of their prompt engineering in Azure Machine Learning or as a standalone APIs. And the last big service Microsoft offers for model creations is the evaluation on our AI dashboard, which is built into AI Studio as well. It enables you to see where the data may be biased or where you maybe have issues with the application in production. And last announcement around responsible AI is customer copyright commitment for Azure OpenAI service. It means Microsoft is extending Copilot copyright commitment protection for users who are using or build an application on top of Azure AI service. Copilot copyright commitment is now renamed to Customer Copyright Commitment. So it means that if you follow in the published guidelines and documentation, for example, how to build Copilot responsibility, how to design your meta prompt, how to handle data, or how to use Azure Content Safety Service. So in this case, Microsoft will protect you if somebody makes a copyright claim against you. Okay, we covered AI orchestration layer, and now let's see all those announcements and technologies in action. Amit, over to you.
Adir and Marina showed us a lot of the announcements from Ignite. Let's see how we can make them into a product in under 20 minutes. I'm going to show you how to plan a trip to Japan with AI. All of this tech is under Microsoft technology. After that, I'm going to show you how to build it yourself, how to use each of the Lego pieces and even make it much more innovative in under 20 minutes. So let's begin the journey. I want to go to Japan. I'm writing Japan with kids, and I am using the new Bing chat instead of going to all those links, and it will do all the work for me. So it is now scraping the internet for me and is bringing the results that I need. You can see the number 1 and number 2, basically the sources that you used in order to bring the data. Let's open them. We see it used more data, like number 3 and number 4, but it's not that important right now. So TripAdvisor is a great place. And of course, Japan with kids is also a good idea. And you also take it from family adventure trip. This is a lot of activities. See how he is proactively asking me to inquire more questions. I can use free text, and I can also choose one of those options. Let's see what is the best time to visit Japan with kids. See how we change the question best time to visit Japan with kids instead of what is. It's called grounding. This is also part of the mechanism that we are building, and we see how to build it today. And now that we have the tight timing and the right itinerary to how to do the trip, let's go to the next thing. Now that I know where to go in Japan and when to go in Japan, I need to create an invite to my family. So of course, going to use again Bing Chat and the DALL-E capabilities in order to create an image. But it won't stop right here. Let's see. I'm asking to create an image for Japan trip in anime style. And he is going to use DALL-E and to create this image for me. But my kid loves Dragon Ball Z, so I'm just going to tell him, add some Dragon Ball Z into the mix, and he will understand. Take the previous prompt, adding it, mixing with the new prompt, and he's going to create Dragon Ball Z image for a trip in Japan. Okay, great. Now let's select the image that I like the most. So I think this is the best image. And now I'm going to customize it So I'm using Microsoft Design. It's an entire flow from A to Z. And I can take this image and I can use pre-made templates, but I'm looking for a template that is more related into adventure and trip. I can change the text, but I can also ask him to create a new template. So I'm going to, instead of search a template, go and write trip to Japan, and I'm going to find the first one that looks really, really nice. It's Mount Fuji, and the blossom, it's really great, especially in the autumn. But I didn't finish it. I don't like the kid next to the character. So I'm going to use generative arrays. So if you remember, I started from browsing, went all the way to creating an invitation with text, erasing an object, everything from my browser. It's an A to Z complete application that you can do right now by yourself using Bing Chat and Microsoft Designer. Now I'm in the trip itself. Me and my family, they were convinced by the nice invitation, and they want to go to Japan, and we found out that we didn't understand what the food is all about. So I can also upload an image and take the image into the Bing Chat. You can now do it for my PC because I'm not really in Japan right now, but it's the same as like taking a picture with your phone. Ask what it is. I'm going to analyze the image, and this is a natto. By the way, it's a popular breakfast food in Japan, and it tells me all about it. Also, I can understand how healthy it is, what is the ingredient, and so on. And now we want to build it ourselves and make it even more personalized and more advanced in under 20 minutes using the Azure AI Studio that was presented by Marina and the capabilities that also were presented by Adir. Before we are starting, we need to understand what are foundation models. So foundation models are a big change in concept. In the past, we used to have an algorithm for each case. A classification model, detection model, action model, so on, something for sentiment on text. Foundation models have changed it all. It's basically a very, very large language model that's being fed with a lot of data from text, image, speech, structured data, 3D scenario, and more. And this creates a very unique phenomenon when it can do much more. It can do question and answering, semantic analysis, information extraction, and much more. So what makes them so special? They are huge. GPT-3 costs more than $12 million to train. I can't tell you how much GPT-4 cost, but it was much more. Llama Llama 1 cost $5 million. Again, Llama Llama 2 was even costier. This is also, you need a lot of data. You need a lot of power, GPUs and CPU in order to train it. And after that, you get this foundation model that you can use for various tasks. You can use those foundation models we're going to see today. If it's GPT-4 or 3 for text, we're going to see Whisper model for sound, speech, and of course, Florence model for vision. So let's start by building a POC. POC usually start with a bunch of software Legos on the floor that we're going to see on those AI studios. And you need to pick and choose them from our Azure AI Studio today in order to build a big application or a product. So eventually, all those Lego pieces are going to look like a product on Azure. And this is something that you can deploy very quickly. This is the Azure AI Studio. This is the front face. We're now creating a project. We have the tabs over here, and let's go to build because we want to build an application. First of all, we need to deploy the models that we want to use. There is much more than just GPT-4 or GPT-3. We have an entire catalog model that I'm going to show you next, but you see the richness, Llama 2, Hugging Face, Nvidia, and so on. But for now, let's upload GPT-4. I have created a deployment. Let's call it GPT-4 Amit. Okay, and we press deploy, and we have created the deployment. Now that we have the deployment, we can go to the playground, and in the playground, we can start playing. So this is the system edges, the basic one. You're an AI system that helps people find information. But we want to create something for a trip to Japan. So plan a trip to Japan. That's everything that we need in order to start. This is the most basic prompt. We are going to use the GPT-4 Amit deployment, and we're going to increase the max response so we won't be limited by the answer. Let's ask a question, a trip to Japan with 2 kids for a week. So we ask the question, and here in a few seconds, we got the answer. ChatGPT that is only aligned about answering trips to Japan. We can maybe play a bit with the system message, add some examples and variables, but this is like the basic beginning of building this application. Let's add speech capabilities on top of that. Before we are doing that, let's see the code is very simple. You can get it in Python, in C#, but it basically says you are an AI assistant that help to create a trip to Japan. You can get it in various codes, languages. And now let's add audio capabilities. So let's go to the playground and enable speech to text and text to speech. So we also have a microphone. Let's choose Emma voice, save. Let's use the mic.
A trip to Japan with 2 kids.
That sounds like a wonderful trip. Here's a plan for a 10-day trip with a focus on family-friendly activities.
Everything is now inside the code. I can just copy paste it and do much more. So let's continue and expanding the capabilities of this application. Now we want to deploy it. We want to build a website that takes a lot of time. But if we are going to use our deployment button, we can get a new app in under a few seconds. So now let's deploy the web application. We have the deploy button over here, and let's write a new web app. Let's give it a name, Ignite, test, and let's choose the subscription that we want to use, the resource group, and the location where the server should be. The closest to the users, the faster the user will get. Instead of pressing deploy, I'm going to cancel, and I'm going to use a previous deploy that I did just so it will be quicker. I'm going to update an existing deploy under my subscription, and I'm going to choose the FECA demo and deploy it. All what it took to create a website, now I can press the launch button, and I have a website which I can share with people. I can write a trip to Japan with my dad, and I get an answer really quick. I can share it with the button, copy paste it. It's super easy, but I can do much more. I can also take the entire web and the entire code into Visual Studio Code online. Just a press of a button, I'm going to get the entire code here, and I can expand it and add more features. But this is not all. We're going to make it even more sophisticated. So now I'm going to make it personalized. I'm going to add my trip data into the data. I bought a ticket from an airline company, and I got the Sydney airport document. So I'm now going to upload the data. I'm going to choose upload files. I'm going to use the subscription. I'm going to use a blob storage where the storage is, or I'm going to save the PDF. I'm going to use Azure Cognitive Search. This is the tool that does the embedding. And I'm going also to use the text embedding as a tool in order to take the PDF itself and embed it. I'm going to choose an index, and next. I'm going to upload the file, the Japan file, upload the file. So let's see what's inside the file. So inside the file, we got a lot of recommendations where to put in Japan. What are some TripAdvisor places? What are the best places to be? It's a long document, 44-page, and I want Azure OpenAI to search it for me. So I need to embed it. I choose an hybrid approach, and it created the document. Now I'm going to ask Japan with 2 kids. Instead of getting some hallucination or an outdated data, I'm going to get the most up-to-date data. You see the reference numbers. I'm getting already 2 references from the PDF, and I'm going now to finish the answers with 4 references. I'm going to press the references, and I'm going to see what exactly it based the answer on. I can press on any one of them, and just what was the data. I can see it didn't hallucinate the answer that I wanted. Can again deploy the web and get a more updated web with that capability and every capability that I'm adding. Now we want to add another capability, a vision capability. We have the Vision Studio. It's a great studio to create everything around vision and AI. So I'm going to choose the AI video, the Vision Studio over here, and I'm going to show you some of the capabilities that you can do. So for example, I can search in a lot of photos in what's called image retrieval. And I can, for example, look at the retail one. And I can also upload my own files. But on the retail one, there's 265 pictures. And I only want to have yellow shirts. So I'm going to write yellow shirts. And I found the 5 of them. And again, I can take the API and integrate it. And also, after I found the images, I want to understand what's inside the images. So I'm going to upload an image, for example. This is sushi, and I'm getting the answer in a JSON format. I'm going to copy-paste the JSON format in a second. But now, let's say the assistant can also get the JSON file, explain to me what is the food, and also show me the history behind it. So I'm going to take the JSON, copy-paste it, and now I am going to understand what is the history behind sushi. Again, this is something that you can configure easily with the API, and I'm going to show you the prompt flow in a few minutes. This is the really powerhouse between how you can create a scalable program. But this is just for testing. You can always go to the SDK, but it's just for you to understand what if the capabilities exist before you build in an entire application. Let's see some application about video. For example, let's go to retail. Let's search a place with coffee. So coffee is being split on the floor. Even I did a spelling mistake. Find the coffee on the floor, and I can see the entire moments where the coffee is here. Also, very, very interesting to see another capability such as caption imagery, remove background, as we saw in the demo at the beginning. So everything is just a Lego pieces from Azure Vision model. This is called the Florence model. It's also a foundation model, a huge model that can help us do a lot of cool stuff. We have the spatial analysis, face and image analysis, but more cool than that, we can create a custom model with images. Because it's a foundation model, we don't need a lot of images in order to create a customized model. Let's see how we can do it and create a customized image model. I'm going to use the detect common object in order to create an object detection of a new object. It's going to be a drone. So I'm going to train a custom model, and I'm going to go to Azure Data Labeling and start a project. So I'm going to label a few drones. So it will learn what is a drone. Because it's a foundation model, I don't need a lot of data. Now I'm going to create the Coco file so I can use it in order to train the data. And I have created the Azure Machine Learning Workspace in a project. I'm going to tell him it's going to be an object detection model. The model type is an object detection, and I am going to put up the data set. I don't need a lot of time because I don't have a lot of pictures, and it's enough to train it. So now I can also get the precision of the model itself. And now let's test it. Now let's upload the file that wasn't on the training, image of a drone, and it found out it's 83% a drone. So it was a success. So this is how easy it is to customize the foundation model. You don't need a lot of images, and you get an image object detection really, really quick. Let's see more speech capabilities. We have the Speech Studio as we had the Vision Studio. Let's select it. So we have, we're going here, we're choosing Speech Studio. And in the Speech Studio itself, we're going to do a live translation. Okay, so I'm going to speak in English, and I'm going to get it live in Japanese. And I'm also going to hear myself in Japanese in a few second delay. Let's start.
What is your name?
あなたの名前は何ですか？
Can I have breakfast, please?
朝食は食べられますか？
Thank you.
ありがとうございます。
You can see the original text is exactly what I said. And now I can see also you can create a virtual avatar if you want. If you don't want a regular web page, you can just create a virtual avatar. You can configure it yourself and put the image that you want. Just play with it a bit, and you'll get perfect avatar for your business or for your UI. You can also use it to transcribe real-time speech. You use whisper model, custom speech, and so much more. And what I really like is the audio content creation. If you just want to create audio for your company. So let's copy paste from the studio the answers that we got about the sushi, the history of the sushi. And let's say that Jenny is going to be the voice, but not only Jenny. In the middle, we want Guy to replace her.
The image you provided appears.
to be a close-up of various types of sushi, including sushi rolls with green vegetables.
This is great. We can play with the pronunciation, the silence, interruption, everything that we want under those speech capabilities. Again, you can add it all under the APIs and the code, but let's go even deeper to how to create it in scale. So we have the full development lifecycle, the Azure AI Studio that we just presented by Marina and Adir. Let's take it even a notch up. We have the data that we have collected under the component. We have the index that we have created with Azure AI Search to embed the data. We have the deployments that we created. We can even create content filter for having a game. For example, we do want to talk about violence. You could kill someone in a game. We can also create our own natural voice. I can become a computer, a voice in a few seconds. But most importantly, we can choose any model catalog over here. And if you don't know which model is for you, we can benchmark them and understand who is better and what. So this is also a great tool. And then we're going to create our first prompt flow. Let's go to the playground. And to create the prompt flow, we're going to press over here, open in prompt flow. And everything is going to be wonderful right now because we can now add Python code. We can add each of the elements from the model catalog. So this is, we took what we did about getting the documents and retrieve the documents and format it and giving us an answer. Let's go to the Japan traveling sampler. And we have the flow right here. And what you can see here is that we have the input that the user gives. The user is going to upload the input inside the OpenAI model and the embedded application. Let's go over each of those pieces. Now we're going to, after we modify the query, we're going to embed the question from the user. And we're going to search the question in the document themselves after we have embedded them. Now we're going to generate the prompt. So we are going to clean all the data and get the clean content. And going to choose the prompt variation. We're going to use the history, the chat history, the context, and the question in order to flow it all up into OpenAI. And now we're going to use OpenAI to answer the question with all the data that we got from those four. This will actually going to go over the document, the PDF document, and answer the questions that we want. For example, what can I do in Osaka? And where should I sleep? And what are the recommended dining options? This document contains all the stuff. We will see it's the source is Japan PDF. So it took 3 seconds, and now let's look at the trace and everything that was involved in the process. So let's go and look at the view output. You can see what's got in, what's got out, the logs, the metrics, even the trace, how much time, for example, it took to do the embedding. And now we can understand what takes time in our flow, what can be a bottleneck, if there is, and we can also create evaluation. We want to create a lot of tests, so we can generate those tests, we can create them at scale. We can just need to run the description and get the entire settings that I'm not going to show you right now because we don't have a lot of time. But after you do all the tests, you can also go back and see the output and understand if you have a problem, if the application do what you really want to do. So now that we've learned about all those Vision Studio, AI Studio, of course, have much more. Let's see a great example. For example, you can get an image of New York, teddy bear on a skateboard in a 4K and raining, combine them all together to create the audio as a rain street, the image of the teddy bear in New York, and everything as a video eventually. So the element here is we put inside text, image, and audio and created a video plus audio. So this is the text, this is the image, this is the audio. It's basically rain. And all of this come into the machine and you get an innovation of video of a teddy bear in the rain in New York. If you are not in Founders Hub yet, you can get up to 150K to Azure OpenAI that you just showed. You can get guidance in business and technical questions, get GitHub, Microsoft 365, LinkedIn Premium, and much more. And to conclude, Microsoft's mission is to create a better world and enabling startups to do more with our tech. So we're really excited that you have joined us today to this session. And thank you, Adir, and thank you, Marina, and thank you, everybody, for watching us. We want to empower every startup on the planet to achieve more. Thank you.